Here we are, season 1, episode 1, Beyond the Glass Door, kicking off the series. We got Jermtown in the building.
Yo.
What's going on?
What's going on?
So how you doing today, man?
I'm pretty good, and that was pretty impressive for a first time intro.
Yeah.
You hit it hard.
Right? See, I'm coming into this a little bit seasoned.
Yeah.
And so, obviously I think I kind of want to start this interview just kind of explaining a little bit of the backstory and how we kind of met, right? So it was like May of 2022. I got the first internship at APG. You were there. You were off in your kind of corner doing your thing. You had been there for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And
not much longer.
Yeah, not that much longer.
Yeah.
Probably maybe
months.
Yeah, a couple months
yeah.
before. Yeah. So we had met, and at that time, you were kind of in this struggle between, do I go the full-time executive route? Do I go the full-time artist route? And then you have people in your ear telling you that you can't even necessarily do both.
Yeah.
So, when you got in those label doors from day one, what were your intentions there?
From day one, if I'm being honest, when I met you, I don't know if I was back and forth yet. When I first got into the idea of interning or just getting into a label was like trying to learn more about the business.
Right.
Trying to figure out what's going on behind that glass door.
Yeah.
But just I had a couple managers who, worked for Universal. One of them worked for Sony, and sometimes I would have big ideas or shit I wanted to do. And me, when I get an idea, I go. You know what I mean? So a couple ideas I wanted to do, I just wanted to go. And they would always be like, yeah, well, you got to understand, that's not how the business works. You got to understand the business. So after hearing that for like a year, I'm like, all right, let me figure out how the fuck the business works. You know what I mean? And I got in an internship, you know what I'm saying? I had to hit a little resume finesse real quick and send a couple resumes to some homies at different labels. And APG just hit back first. So I got in there and wanted to just see what I could learn, see if I could get connected with Mike Karen, see who I could learn from as far as the A&R team and the marketing team, and just, leave after a few months and hopefully come out with some better perspective of how to move forward as an artist. That was the initial plan.
Right. So really, like, the initial plan is really kind of to gain that, perspective that I think a lot of artists are missing, when it comes to the business, because at the same time, I feel like the only way that people think they're gonna blow up sometimes is like, I gotta get the hot record on TikTok, build my fan base brick by brick, like the independent kind of Russ, glorified route, where it's like, it is true, it definitely is, but I think, at the same time, a lot of people have kind of walked into the business just by being in the right rooms at the right time. So I want to ask you, man, how did you kind of leverage your access to fuel that career as an artist that you had?
Intention from day one was just to go in and get more insight and more information on how to be a more business savvy musician.
Right.
Like, I didn't want to just keep making music and not having the answers or not having the results that I wanted. So I thought it was, key to get into a building where, they were doing music business and just learn more about their process and kind of go in as a covert agent,
Right.
I didn't go into APG announcing like that I was an artist or that I was writing or producing, anything like that. I just kind of went in like A&R intern, college student out here trying to get it, you know what I mean? And that was my intention. I did, there's certain one-on-one meetings you have with supervisors and labels, at least in my experience, I'm sure in yours, where, they want to know what's your plan, what's your 6-month goal, what's your 3-year goal, like shit like that. And I was always back and forth between like, well, I create, but I also really like doing this job. And I want to be like a creative music business professional, which is hard for a lot of music business professionals to wrap their heads around, but not all of them. In the spirit of APG, Mike Karen is a creative music business professional, one of the best. Jay-Z is a music business professional that writes songs and sells albums. And Pharrell, Tyler, the Creator, is one of my favorites. There's plenty of people that do it. Dr. Dre. but I always felt kind of shy about using those people as examples when they would ask me like, oh, how are you going to balance both?
Right.
Like, yeah, Jay-Z does it, you know, like, but because in their minds, they don't see that for themselves. So they're definitely
Right.
not going to see it for me. So trying to use Jay-Z as an example, like, yeah, I'm trying to be on some Jay-Z shit or some Pharrell shit. It's kind of, it sounds,
Cliche. You know, you have so many people saying that.
yeah, it sounds overconfident to
Right.
somebody who's not sure of themselves.
Right.
And I was. I didn't know how I was going to do it. I haven't necessarily fully succeeded yet. I'm still in the process. But I was just trying to figure out that balance and if it was possible. And I was worried that if I leaned too much on the business side, that my creative side would suffer. And that if I leaned too much on the creative side, that, you know, no company would want to hire me. So for months, I was just walking that line with no answer and with no plan, trying to figure out how to do that. Right. And I don't think I figured it out until I left APG.
Now that makes sense. Honestly, I feel like one of the biggest problems with like the music business in general is that a lot of people who make the decisions for creatives don't really have that experience with like having a creative discipline, so to speak. I mean,
Yeah.
you're kind of like a, you know, Swiss Army knife when it comes to creativity. I
Yeah.
mean, look, we got the Loveland wine bottle here. You
Loveland.
know, you're a producer, you're an artist, writer, you know, you're modeling. It's like, you know, what can't you do, right? And so, you know, can you kind of just speak on the importance of having that diverse set of skills
Yeah.
as a creative when you're going to be on the executive side?
I don't know how it plays into the executive side as far as creativity goes, because I'm not an executive yet. But what I do know is there's no such thing as a one-dimensional artist, you know. We usually have more than one thing that we can do. Certain business formats, certain industries, you know, once you get into one, you know, you get locked into one. I guess some people use the term pigeonhole, like you get pigeonholed. And that's what I was trying to avoid when I was interning. Like I wanted to be good at business, but I also wanted to keep creating. That was the only time I felt alive, is when I was creating something. But I didn't want to be one of the creatives that like didn't know what was going on in the meetings about their own shit. You know what I mean? So I think, creativity aside, being an executive and a good leader, you have to know who you're leading, right? And you have to know how to do the jobs that you're leading. Like you don't get to become a manager of the restaurant if you don't know how to run the cash register. Right. You don't know where all the storage stuff is, and you don't know how to, you know, deal with people and customer complaints and the kitchen stuff. Like you got to know how to kind of do those jobs before you become the top dog. So I think that's important, you know, to being a music business professional, to have some type of knowledge or experience somewhere in the field, to have some knowledge of something. I think there are a lot of people in the music business now, you know, the creative business, who aren't that creative and also aren't that good at business. Right. You know, they're just around because they knew somebody or because they went to the right school and they have a program at that school that funnels them into the industry, or, you know, they're just really good at being somebody's assistant. But I think that a certain level of discernment in how we scout not only musicians but employees in the music business would do a lot of good for the future of music and music business. So me, I kind of saw the industry for something that was a tool for me to use, but something that I didn't have to be a victim of. And I found how to work my way around it and through it, and how to use resources from it to like fuel my creative projects without giving up much ownership over them.
Right.
So, yeah.
100%. Yeah, and even, you know, just talking about creative projects, I kind of want to pivot to some of those creative projects. Yeah. You know, that the Overcast record that you have coming out.
Yeah.
You shared the snippet of, you know, it's getting a lot of love. You know, of course, you had the Sid cosign, a Rabbit's Hole. You got people posting about it. And, you know, everybody that's already kind of following you along with your journey is fucking with it.
That was fire.
Yeah. No, it was great. Plus, the piece of content was amazing. Like, you chilling by the beach. That was very, like, it's very calm, you know what I mean? Very much matched the tone of the record.
That was all my homie Spencer's idea. The beach was his idea.
Right. Yeah. No, that's awesome. But I do want to say, you know, when he got those 2 placements on the Drake project, you know, how much more special did that collaboration become to you? And not even necessarily from like, oh, this is now like a clouded up record, or like,
Yeah.
you know, oh, like this is the ticket, you know,
Yeah.
like, but just from like a validation standpoint. Someone worked with the GOAT, but they're also working with me.
It didn't make it any more special. It was already as special as it could possibly be when we started the conversation, and that he agreed to working with me, and that we made that situation happen. I was honored at that point. You know, I knew Overcast was special when somebody put me on to him 4 years ago, and I hit him up 4 years ago and was like, "Yo, I'm trying to work. You like, how much for some beats?" And it was a pretty penny that I didn't have at that time. So it was special 3.5 years later to be able to like come back after building a relationship with him, to be able to come back and have the money to do that. I guess it was special that I got there before Drake, you know what I mean? Because I don't know what the price is now, but whatever it is, he deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves everything good coming his way. But no, I think that was more so a special moment for him. You know, it showed music producers in that world of, you know, underground, lo-fi, you know, all that type of shit that they label it as, that, you know, sky's the limit and real shit's always going to prevail. And Overcast is one of the realest producers, artists that we got out right now, and I'm happy he's getting his shine, and I want to see more of that for guys like him and guys like me. And I mean, it was special for me as a friend that he got that moment.
Yeah.
But I didn't think about the clout aspect. Kind of is cool, but like I don't know if I'm getting any Drake trickle down. So yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I think, you know, you sent me a lot of the tracks that you have in store coming out.
Yeah.
And they're very they're very vulnerable. They're very kind of authentic. You know, it's you being you.
Yeah.
And I remember I listened to the West Adams project.
Yeah.
I mean, that was also you being you, but it was also, I think you were more braggadocious and
Yeah.
kind of talking your shit on there. The Wheezy freestyle was my favorite. That was my favorite one. That was the one that I was like, you know, I would just kind of walk around the neighborhood and listen to that when I
Yeah.
was first out here,
Yeah.
you know, this summer.
Yeah.
So I just kind of, you know, both from the A&R standpoint, but also from the artist standpoint, can you speak on, you know, like the importance of authenticity and how that is really kind of impactful in terms of someone's longevity?
Yeah. I don't know how much it plays into people's longevity. I think we have a lot of music and movies and art that may not be authentic to the artist who made it. Doesn't mean it's not good, but that lasts and that stands the test of time. You know, people sing songs that other people wrote, and maybe they felt a connection to it. And by the way, I'm all for that. I write
Yeah.
for people,
Yeah.
and you know, I'm open to having people write for me. But mine was more so introspective. The music I sent you recently, it was introspective. Even West Adams was introspection. It sounded braggadocious, but most of those stories were true. For me, it was just like I had a moment. I was driving around Santa Monica last summer I listened to Blonde by Frank Ocean, and I listened to Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar, and I think I ran Flower Boy by Tyler, the Creator. And I was just like, damn, I don't have one of these. Like, I don't have anything that is like a reflection of me that I feel is like gonna stand the test of time to where I'm like, you know, 20, 30, 40 years from today that I can show people or show my kid, or like, I used to make music and I was like, oh yeah, like, let me hear some. Like, I wanted something like that. Like, Frank can stand on Blonde for the rest of his life, you know?
Right.
Tyler can stand on his discography forever, you know? And I wanted something like that, and I wanted to stop just making cool songs to make cool songs, but make good songs that are a reflection of who I am. So that's where those songs came from. That's where New Day came from with Overcast. That whole playlist you got, it just came from me wanting to like stand on something in the music a little more and just stop proving that I can do more than one thing, you know, and just start telling the truth.
Right. Do you think that just like generally speaking, that kind of comes with the sacrifice of someone being able to be a mainstream artist and kind of eat like the rest of the people on Billboard. Because, for example, like Jack Harlow is somebody who appears very authentic, but that authenticity can sometimes strike people as like performative. Like,
I think Jack Harlow's amazing. First of all, I think
and
he's
I'm not disagreeing. I think his music is great, but
I think he's authentic. I think Jack is truly authentic to who he is in his music.
Right.
The singles are going to be singles. You know what I mean? That's the kind of artist he is. But those albums, the cuts are, he gets into some shit on there. And what I think about Jack is like, Smino had a tweet one time that said, "I like my white people white." You know what I mean? Meaning Jack doesn't put on like the cool, try to use all the black lingo around his black friends and like, you know what I'm saying? Like all
Right.
that shit in his music. He's just kind of like this kid from Kentucky. He's from Kentucky, right?
Yeah, he's from Kentucky.
Louisville.
Louisville.
Doing this thing and like telling the story. I think he's solid. I think he's special. I think he's authentic. And I think that vulnerable music has a place anywhere. Like Kendrick Lamar is one of the biggest rappers of all time. And he's extremely authentic to who he is. Drake is, has like Drake's not all fluff. And like, I know like the Most Def thing was like, Drake's not all fluff. He's not all Target music. Drake has some cuts where it's like, damn, you know what I mean? Like he has some cuts and a lot of them, like more than I can count on my hands.
Right.
Twice.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to be authentic and give an expression of yourself, but and still believe that you can have a space in the mainstream if you want it.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I think a lot of it is authentic. I think Taylor Swift is authentic to herself.
Yeah, I also think too, though, like speaking on the Kendrick point, I feel like he got in when being authentic was like still appreciated. Like that was the idea of what a mainstream rapper should be.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's like people could really give a shit.
Well, if you think about it though, like 2009, 10, 11, 12, we had like No Diss, we had Roscoe Dash, we had Waka Flocka Flame, we had, let me get a couple more of these off. We had like,
yeah, because they're on the same record together.
Yeah, we had like, and like music that wasn't that introspective. Not that it wasn't authentic, but like Juicy J was going crazy again on his second run, and
Right.
like, there was a bunch of different kinds of rap music that was also popular. I think guys like Kendrick and guys like, Drake and J. Cole and Wale, Donald Glover, all those guys at that time, they had to like, there was a level of consistency and boldness that they had to maintain through that era to make it a popular thing. But I think, I think vulnerable shit is always going to prevail because ultimately music is just something that we feel. People want to feel something. And it ain't always some deep therapeutic shit. Sometimes it's just like, God's Plan was a special song by Drake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was poppy too. It was like a #1. It was crazy, but it had different uses. You could party to it and you could also be like, damn, like I feel this though.
Yeah.
And I think there's a duality to artists, and when you figure out that balance, it becomes a special thing in the music. When you figure out how to be both appealing and authentic to yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's definitely a good point. But you just listed a lot of goats right there, and you're no stranger to that in terms of who you're working with. You're an A&R consultant for Timbaland, right? We already went over this. We were talking on Friday, but when somebody who's like really kind of considered one of the greatest hip hop producers all time is kind of trusting you with the musical direction of his sound, how does that make you feel? Not only just in terms of your taste or your ear, like in your confidence in that, but like, does it feel full circle? Are you having to like pinch yourself like, whoa, I'm on the phone with Timbaland? I used to see him through master classes. I was trying to learn how to make beats, and I was like rewatching it. I was like, why isn't my shit good? But you're on the phone, you're doing your thing.
Well, first I want to clear up that I think it's an overstatement to say that he's trusting me with the musical direction of his career. Timbaland trusts me to find music that I think is dope, that I also think that he would think is dope and bring to him and help develop and help work with these artists and help turn them up a little bit, you know, fill in the blanks where they need help. Um, he does a lot of his own A&Ring, if you will. He has a great ear. He knows how to scout and find artists. He knows how to reach out. He knows how to, you know, he has like a tough love thing with artists and knows how to like challenge them and push them to their limits. There was like over the summer, there was like a month where I had to like, I was lit. A lot of things were happening. I had just dropped the first wine bottle. I had been out in New York with Tim, and Justin Timberlake and shit like that. And like all that was cool. And it was like a height. It was crazy. It was like a height of the year.
Right.
And yeah, it was a lot of like, damn, like I get paid to do this. Like, this is crazy. I don't pinch myself so much anymore because I think I just kind of got used to it. Just being out in LA and working at different labels and connecting. I see a lot of my favorite musicians and people I grew up on and get to connect with them up close. So, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to have this job every day. A year ago today, I was trying to figure out where my next check was going to come from. So
Right.
it's more so about the security of having a job and having money and having the freedom to be a creative music business professional. But yeah, I mean, I learned a lot from Timbaland that he doesn't even know I learned from him. You know, sometimes he'd be cooking up on the laptop and I'll be over his shoulder looking at shit, you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, I learned a lot from Gary, his manager, who's also one of my supervisors. And Gary is good at, you know, putting people in rooms and connecting people and maintaining and fostering relationships. So I learned a lot from both of them together. I hope that answers the question.
It does.
Yeah.
But, you know, well, I guess like, is there any like kind of big specific takeaway that you have from Timbaland?
Yeah. There's the huge one is coming off of everything I just told you about my APG experience, about the balance. The huge thing that I learned just from watching and just from being around Timbaland is that ultimately all he does is create. And I don't mean all he does to belittle it. I mean, he is fully locked in on being a creative. Like, he produces, he writes, he scouts, you know what I'm saying? He's going out to shoot videos. He's going out to, you know, photo shoots. He's doing these pop-ups at record stores, you know what I'm saying? Doing performances, you know, all over. Like, he's locked in, and he's been locked in for 20, 30 years, every day creating. And seeing that up close from a GOAT and realizing this GOAT became a GOAT from just creating and sticking true to what he knows, that was my takeaway. It's like, yo, stay true to this shit. You never know what the fuck's gonna happen. You never know where this shit's gonna take you. And my job with him is a testament to that. Like last year, I was getting, you know, turned down from all these labels for jobs and getting stood up at interviews and like people just not showing up to the job interview type shit. And like, I was like, yo, fuck it. I'm about to just go back out here and just rap and make beats and just get back out here with the knowledge I gained last year. But getting the Tim job and I guess at the time the Beat Club job and then transitioning to working with Tim was like it was a blessing, and it just taught me to just like stay down, you know, keep working and don't let the down times make you give up.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is like a common theme out here in LA. People will just like say, meet at here, and they just don't show up. This is especially music industry people. Stop doing that. You were at that point one time when you just needed that phone call, when you needed that meeting to change your life, and you don't show up.
Yeah.
That actually affects people.
Yeah.
You should remember. You should be humble.
Yeah.
People forget. They forget.
Facts.
They do. But you have this you kind of have this infectious like go-getter mentality that you passed on to me in certain aspects. And I'm not saying like, you know, oh my God, you taught me everything I know. But what I'm really getting at is this one particular moment.
Yeah.
Where I came out to LA like this summer, and I was like, hey man, you know, this one executive saying like, you know, I might be able to get an internship or something going if I just, you know, if I came out to LA, what should I do? And you said,
pull up.
Just pull up.
Pull up on them.
Yep. And that's exactly what I did. And I came to the office of this label.
Yeah.
And I tried to trick the security guard and tell him that I had a meeting there. And, And then I called the guy and he didn't pick up,
Yeah.
and he said he was somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
He was probably up there too.
yeah, he probably was. But I saw the
Yeah.
story. I saw his Instagram story, and I was like, you know what? Maybe he's not lying. But after that, I remember we got coffee. That was a fun time.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a fun time.
Yeah.
But I guess kind of like elaborate a little bit on like what's that kind of go-getter mentality you got to adopt to succeed in music, because there's like that one component where it's like, yeah, show up, do your job every day, but
Yeah.
then there's a million people
That's
showing
bare
up
minimum.
and doing their, yeah, exactly.
That's bare minimum. Show up and do your job every day. It's like, I mean, you know, interning for Anthony. Shout out to Anthony Morales. You know, eat your veggies first and then you go get dessert after. So showing up and doing your job every day, that's just your veggies.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But for me, the by any means necessary mentality, the go get it, the not taking no for an answer, is a few things. One, I'm from Detroit, you know what I mean? So that's just kind of a collective way of moving out there. Two, you know, I grew up not having shit. So survival mode gives you a by any means necessary mentality, you know?
Right.
And three, when I met you, I was just like, just had a kid like 6 months before. Right. So you put all three of those things together, like there's no taking no for an answer on success, on opportunity. And if it's going to be a no, I want to make sure it's a definite no. So if you, oh, I might have a internship for you, I'm pulling up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to finesse my way up to the building into your office. You know, they'll finesse you if they can.
Yeah.
You got to get them back when you can, and no harm done along the way. Like you pulling up and, you know, going the extra mile to make sure you get an opportunity doesn't hurt anybody. It just shows how bad you really want the opportunity. And I do that to this day. I'm probably never going to stop pulling up. You know what I mean? I'm never going to stop going. My favorite saying right now is there's no traffic on the extra mile.
Right.
You know,
I like that.
No one's on the extra mile.
Yeah. Where'd you learn that?
I forget. I heard it on the podcast
Oh,
or something.
okay. I was like, you came up with that one.
I didn't come up with that one. I got to find out where I got it
impressed.
from. But yeah.
Yeah.
But it's true. No one goes, not no one, but you only see like-minded individuals on the extra mile. It's like when Kobe was talking about being at the gym at like 4.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The whole team wasn't in there at 4, you know?
No, that's a good point. I guess defining the bare minimum is definitely going to be, you know, key in that. And that's something I'll just take with, you know, me, of course, but also just in everything.
Yeah.
I feel like that we do, you know, define, okay, what is the least thing required of me? And then kind of building out around that, you know?
I feel like the least thing required of us is the best that we can possibly do.
Right.
Doing your absolute best is the bare minimum.
Clip that.
You know what I mean?
Clip
Like,
that.
What else can you do?
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's good. And I mean, you know, I feel like we've covered, honestly, a lot of the bases.
Yeah.
And in terms of, you know, not only your kind of artistry, but I guess your work, you know, being an A&R consultant in the business. But, you know, we have the Loveland, Jermtown, neighborhood winery, wine bottle, this red. I missed the last event, you know. What's next for you? What's next for you? I want you to talk a little bit about that and how that whole collaboration came to be.
As far as wine goes, what's next for me is, you know, dropping this bottle, getting it off the ground, launching, you know, a couple parties, turning it up. And it's my favorite project right now, like over everything, you know, besides being a dad. Like I love it more than music right now, you know, and I love it more than my job right now. And the collaboration, it kind of came about, it was actually extremely organic. I met Nick at, you know, a mutual friend's store. He was having a party for his like 1 year anniversary of his store, and Nick pulled up with some wine and just was pouring for people at the party. And I just kind of pulled up, you know, saw him at the front, started kicking it. I was interested in the wine. The labels were really cool. You know, he designs all of his own labels. My friend Devin designed this label though, but he designs all of his neighborhood winery labels. And, you know, we got into conversation about, I think we were having a rap debate about like Kanye and Drake or somebody like that, and start talking about the Lakers and start talking about, you know, all this other shit that we had in common interest wise, and just kind of hit it off, man, and exchanged numbers. And he had me come by the crib. He was doing like a wine tasting for his next releases, at his crib, and I pulled up with a couple homies and tried a bunch of wine. We all got drunk. He was cooking on the grill, and the idea just kind of came up that night. And I've been locked in on that idea since that night. Like I've been tunnel vision on it ever since. It's one of the most beautiful projects I've ever worked on. It's opened up so many doors for me. Like the wine has opened up doors for me in music and opened up doors for me in business and like just friendship. Like so many things have spawned from this partnership, and I'm like super, super grateful to be doing another one. Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm so curious to see how this tastes. Like, this
Tastes
is like
amazing.
it tastes like it's like this mysterious drink, and
Yeah.
like it's a year and a half, you know, in the making for me. So
Yeah.
this is on February 10th,
The bottle will be for sale on February 8th.
8th.
The party's on the 10th in
10th.
LA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I'm going to announce the party in Brooklyn pretty soon.
Ooh, let's
Yeah.
go.
Potentially Detroit as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's going
Taking the bottle on
nationwide
tour.
with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nationwide. Okay, that's
Yeah.
gonna be amazing. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, man, thank you for your time.
Hell yeah.
You know, I couldn't think of a better way to start off this series because I remember, you know,
Yeah.
day one, I was there at B Club. I was telling you exactly about this.
Yeah.
And it didn't hit me until I honestly texted you to start doing it again.
Yeah.
Because I was going through some shit, and then you're like, just do it. And then boom, here
Yeah,
we are
bro.
a couple weeks later.
The best ideas come from within.
Right.
I like the line that Frank Ocean says, I'm living in an idea from another man's mind.
Yeah.
You know, that's from Siegfried. That made me not want to live in anyone else's idea of success anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to define my own parameters of success. So yeah, you're doing that right now with this. So thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, bro.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, bro.
Brother.